Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. The night the storm swept through Boise, I wasn't supposed to be home. My name's Lucas Hayes, and to most, I'm just a guy who chases storms for a living. Tornadoes, hurricanes, blizzards, anything wild enough to make the front page of a nature magazine. It's not as romantic as it sounds. Weeks in motels with bad coffee, nights spent in a truck cab listening to the wind howl, or hours tethered to a cliff for that one lightning shot. But that night, I cut my trip short. The supercell I'd been tracking in Montana fizzled out, and something in my gut, sharp like a coyote's warning growl, told me to head back. Pulling into the driveway of the modern, cedar-sided house I shared with my wife, Mara, I saw it. A sleek silver SUV, I didn't know, its hood still warm, ticking in the rain-soaked air. My stomach nodded. Could be a friend, I told myself. Maybe her sister, visiting from Spokane. But I'd spent enough time tracking predators to know when something was stalking you. My instinct screamed. I pushed open the front door, my boots leaving wet streaks on hardwood. The house didn't smell like Mara's usual lavender diffuser. Instead, there was something else, whiskey, musk, and a warmth that felt wrong. Then I heard it, a laugh, soft, secret, the kind you share in the dark. I set my gear bag down, my pulse hammering, and moved toward the stairs like I was stalking a deer. The bedroom door was cracked, just enough to let the truth slip through. In that sliver of light, my world shattered. Mara, in our bed, her body curled over a man younger than me, her hands tangled in his dark hair, her head tilted back in a way I hadn't seen in years. He murmured something low and rough, and she laughed, a bright, reckless sound that sliced through me. That laugh, it was the thing that broke me. I didn't kick the door open. I didn't yell. I just walked in. Their heads snapped toward me. Mara's face went white, like she'd seen a ghost. The guy, lean, cocky, with a gym rat build, grinned, unbothered, like he'd been caught stealing a beer. Well, he said, this is awkward. I said nothing, just stared, each second stretching like a taut wire. Mara spoke first, her voice shaky. You weren't supposed to be back until tomorrow. I barely recognized her. This woman I'd loved, trusted, built a life with. Guess I crashed your party, I said, my voice sharp as a blade. The guy, Declan, he introduced himself like we were at a networking event, extended a hand. Declan Pierce, fitness coach. I ignored it, my eyes locked on Mara. Get dressed, I said flat. Both of you. Get out. She blinked, stunned. You're overreacting, Lucas. This doesn't have to be the end. I almost laughed. Declan chimed in, zipping up his jeans. Look, man, it's just physical. No need to torch your whole life over a little fun. Fun, I echoed, something splintering inside me. Mara stood, clutching a sheet, her voice rising. We need to talk like adults. Declan and we've been exploring something open. You never hear, Lucas. You're always chasing storms, leaving me alone in this house. I have needs. Declan smirked, pulling on a shirt. Mara stepped closer, her eyes pleading. I love you, Lucas, but I won't be invisible in my own life. Declan gives me something you don't. Attention, passion. I took a step back, my voice too calm. You could have told me. Instead, you turned our home into a cheap motel. Her face crumpled, guilt. Maybe you were just fear. I'm opening our marriage, she said, defiant. Whether you like it or not. Declan brushed past me, swaggering downstairs like he owned the place. Mara stared, waiting for me to fight, to beg. I didn't. I grabbed a duffel, packed my cameras, a few clothes, my truck keys, and a half-empty bottle of rye. I left without a backward glance, the rain swallowing the sound of my tires as I drove into the night. I didn't go to a motel or call a friend. I headed for my grandfather's old cabin, tucked deep in the Sawtooth Mountains. No signal, no neighbors, just pines and silence thick enough to choke on. By the time I got there, the storm had thickened, fog curling around the trees like a living thing. I sat in the truck, headlights cutting through the mist, Mara's laugh looping in my head, her words slicing deeper. I'm opening our marriage. I wanted to roar, to break something, to drink until I forgot her face. Instead, I hauled myself inside. The cabin smelled of cedar and damp earth. I lit a fire, the flames spitting as they caught. I poured Ryan into a chipped mug and drank. The burn sharp, but not sharp enough. Nothing could erase the image of her hands on him, her eyes alive in a way they hadn't been for me in years. Days blurred, maybe a week, maybe two. I kept busy, splitting wood until my palms bled, fixing the cabin's leaky roof, cleaning my old hunting rifle. Anything to drown out the memories. But at night, my mind betrayed me. Flashing images of Mara's lips on Declan's, her voice cold. I won't be invisible. The worst wasn't the affair. It was realizing I'd been blind, chasing tornadoes while my marriage starved. Then the call came. My agent, Sarah Klein, left a voicemail. Lucas, call me. It's urgent. I hiked to the ridge where a faint bar of signal flickered and dialed. Sarah answered, her voice tight. Thank God. It's bad, Lucas. Really bad. What now? I asked, dread pooling in my gut. It's Mara, she said. She went public. She's telling everyone, local news, social media, that you neglected her for years, that your obsession with work drove her to Declan. She's saying you were distant, controlling, that you made her feel like nothing. I gripped the phone, the world tilting. She's playing the victim? It's worse, Sarah said. She's calling you emotionally abusive. The public's eating it up. And Declan? He's backing her, posing as her savior. They're opening some wellness retreat together, Soul Haven or some nonsense. I laughed, bitter and hollow. So they betray me, then turn it into a brand? Lucas, Sarah said, you can't hide. You need to fight this. Show the world who they really are. Fight. The word sparked something cold and sharp. I hung up, staring at the fog-choked valley below. Mara hadn't just broken my heart. She'd weaponized our life. But I wasn't the prey she thought I was. I'd track storms, face down nature's worst. Now, I'd hunt something else, the truth. The Sawtooth Mountains swallowed sound, but they couldn't silence the storm in my head. I sat on the cabin's sagging porch, rye in hand, the night pressing in like a living thing. Mara's voice echoed, I won't be invisible, and Sarah's warning burned. They're opening a wellness retreat. Soul Haven, a place to heal hearts, they called it, built on the wreckage of mine. The audacity of it. Mara and Declan, not just betraying me, but spinning it into a business, a public performance. Lit a fire colder than anger. I wasn't ready to fight yet, but I was done hiding. The next morning, I shaved the scruff that had grown wild, packed my cameras, and drove back to Boise. The city hummed with its usual rhythm. Coffee shops buzzing, joggers weaving through riverside trails, like my life hadn't just imploded. I parked a block from Soul Haven's glossy new storefront. It signed promising renewal, connection, love. Through my telephoto lens, I saw them. Mara, in a tailored blazer, her auburn hair catching the light, arm looped through Declan's. He wore a matching jacket, grinning for a local news crew like a politician on election day. They looked so happy, so untouchable. The sight didn't just hurt, it hardened something in me. I wasn't reckless. Rage wanted me to storm in, cameras blazing, but I'd learned patience chasing storms. This needed to be precise, a lightning strike, not a wildfire. So I started digging. Sarah, my agent, was already on it, furious at how Mara had smeared my name to boost her brand. They're using your absence, she said over coffee at a diner off State Street. Mara's interviews paint you as a ghost husband, always gone, emotionally unavailable. Declan's the hero who saw her. It's a script, Lucas, and the public's buying it. What about proof? I asked, stirring my coffee until it went cold. They're lying about me. There's got to be something to show who they really are. Sarah leaned forward, eyes sharp. There's always a trail. People like Declan don't reinvent themselves. They just change the stage. And Mara? She's not as careful as she thinks. We split the work. Sarah tapped her media contacts, sniffing out dirt on Soul Haven's funding and credentials. I went darker, scouring public records, social media, anything that might crack their facade. Within days, we had threads to pull. Declan had a history. 2 failed gyms in Nevada, both shuttered after financial irregularities. Investors claimed he'd charmed them, then vanished with their cash. No charges stuck. He was slippery, but the pattern was clear. Mara, meanwhile, had filed Solhaven's business license in her name alone, but a buried LLC linked Declan to the accounts. They were advertising transformative emotional coaching without a single licensed therapist on staff. The real break came from a stranger. I've been combing through Solhaven's promotional posts on X when I found a cryptic reply under a glowing video of Mara and Declan. Careful who you trust. Some people leave scars. The account belonged to a woman named Tara Voss. I messaged her, cautious, offering to meet in public. She agreed, naming a quiet bakery near the Boise River. Tara was in her late 30s, with tired eyes and a nervous habit of twisting her scarf. Over tea, she spilled her story. Declan ruined me, she said, voice low. 3 years ago, he convinced me to start a fitness brand with him in Reno. He was all charm, made me feel like I was the only person in the room. 6 months in, he drained our accounts and left. I was stuck with the debt, the lawsuits, everything. Did you report it? I asked, leaning forward. She gave a bitter laugh. I tried, but he'd set it up so the paper trail led to me. I lost my savings, my credit, my confidence. He's a predator, Lucas. He finds people who are hurting and feeds off them. She slid a USB drive across the table. I kept proof, she said. Emails, bank records, even a voicemail where he brags about playing the game. I always hoped someone else would take him down. I pocketed the drive, my pulse quickening. And Mara, Tara hesitated, sipping her tea. I don't know her, but if she's with Declan, she's either his pawn or his partner. Neither's good. I thanked her and left, the USB burning a hole in my jacket. Back at the cabin, I pored over the files. Tara's evidence was damning. Declan's emails outlined schemes to siphon funds. The voicemail caught him laughing about bleeding suckers dry. It wasn't enough to bury them yet, but it was a start. Sarah called with more. Solhaven's application claims Mara has a master's in counseling psychology, she said. I checked. She doesn't. She took some online courses, but no degree. They're lying to clients, to investors. I leaned back, the cabin's fire crackling. We need to go public, but not sloppy. No accusations we can't prove. Agreed, Sarah said. About a friend at the Idaho Statesman. We can leak anonymous tips, small at first, let the media dig. But you need to decide how far you're going, Lucas. This could get ugly. I stared at the flames. Ugly was Mara's hands and Declan's hair. Ugly was her voice on morning shows, calling me a monster. Ugly was their smug smiles while I bled. I'm not stopping, I said. They wanted a story. I'll give them one. Over the next week, we moved carefully. Sarah fed tips to her contact. Questions about Declan's past, Solhaven's shaky credentials, the LLC tying Declan to the money. I built a file, screenshots, Tara's records, public documents showing Mara's faked resume. I used my photography skills for something new, a digital dossier, clean and brutal, weaving their lies into a narrative no one could ignore. Then the first crack appeared. A local blog posted a story. Solhaven star couple. Too good to be true? It cited concerns about Declan's business history and Mara's qualifications. Comments flooded in, some defending them, others demanding answers. I watched from a distance, parked across from Solhaven again, my lens catching Mara's face as she read her phone, her smile gone. Declan paced, barking into his cell. The storm was coming. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Please. M. Mara. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to hear her voice, to see if she'd beg or lie or cry. But I didn't trust that part. I deleted the message and turned off my phone. The next morning, Sarah called, her voice electric. The Statesman's running a piece tomorrow. They found another of Declan's ex-partners. Same story as Tara. And they're questioning Solhaven's funding. Lucas, this is it. They're starting to unravel. I exhaled, the cabin's silence heavier now. What about Mara? She's doubling down, Sarah said. Posted a video last night, teary-eyed, saying the haters are out to get them. But people are asking questions. The tide's turning. I nodded, though she couldn't see. Keep pushing. I'll send you the dossier tomorrow. As I hung up, I felt the weight of what was coming. This wasn't just about exposing them. It was about reclaiming my life. But something gnawed at me. Mara's text. Her voice, Even in those two words sounded desperate. Was she trapped in Declan's web, or was she the spider? I didn't know yet, but I would. The truth was out there, sharp as a blade, and I was getting closer. The Boise dawn was gray, the kind of light that makes everything feel like it's holding its breath. I sat in the cabin, the USB drive from Terra Vos spinning between my fingers. The Idaho Statesman's article had dropped that morning, a quiet bomb. Soul Haven retreat under scrutiny. Questions swirl around founders past. It laid out Declan's trail of failed businesses and hinted at Mara's inflated credentials. The comments section was a war zone. Some called it a witch hunt. Others demanded a deeper investigation. Sarah's voice rang in my head, the tides turning. But I wasn't done. Mara and Declan hadn't just betrayed me. They'd built a castle on lies, and I was going to tear it down brick by brick. I opened my laptop and finalized the dossier. Tara's emails and voicemail were the spine, but I'd added more. Bank records showing shady transfers between Soul Haven and Declan's LLC, screenshots of Mara's counseling claims, and a second ex-partner's testimony, a man named Greg who'd lost his savings to Declan's last venture. I wove it together with the precision I'd learned framing storm shots. Every piece deliberate, every angle sharp. This wasn't just evidence. It was a story, one the public wouldn't ignore. Sarah met me at a dive bar on the edge of town, her eyes bright with adrenaline. "The Statesman's digging deeper," she said, sliding into the booth. "They've got a source inside Soul Haven's investor group. People are nervous, pulling back. And Mara's video response? It's backfiring. Too many holes." I sipped my beer, the dossier burning a hole in my bag. "What's she saying?" "She's leaning into the victim card," Sarah said. "Claims you were emotionally absent, that she had to find herself with Declan. But she slipped up, said they've been planning Soul Haven for years. People are asking how long she's been with him." I clenched my jaw. Years. The word cut deeper than I expected. Had she been playing me that long, smiling through our anniversaries while plotting with him? Or was it another lie to sell their brand? I didn't know, but the doubt was a blade twisting in my gut. Sarah leaned forward. "We need to release the dossier. Not to the Statesman, too risky. But there's a freelance journalist, Mia Chun. She's got a blog with a cult following, loves exposing frauds. She'll run it anonymously, no trace to you." I nodded, sliding the USB across the table. "Tell her to wait 3 days. I want to see what they do next." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "You're playing chess with this, aren't you?" "Storms don't hit all at once," I said. "You watch, you wait, then you strike." Back in Boise, I kept my distance but stayed close enough to watch Soul Haven fray. Through my lens, I caught Mara outside the retreat, her face tight as she argued with a man in a suit, probably an investor. Declan was nowhere in sight, but ex-post showed him at a gym, posting shirtless selfies with captions about rising above negativity. The cracks were showing, but they weren't broken yet. That night, another text from Mara. "Lucas, please. I'm drowning. Can we talk?" I stared at it, my thumb hovering. The old me wanted to answer, to hear her voice, to believe there was something left to save. But the new me, the one forged in the Sawtooths, hardened by betrayal, knew better. I blocked her number. The next day, Mia Chin's blog post hit like lightning. Titled "Soul Haven" or "Soul Drain." The truth behind Boise's new wellness darlings. It was surgical. She published Tara's voicemail, redacted bank records, and Greg's story, alongside a public records dive into Mara's fake degree. The post spread like wildfire. Retweeted, shared, dissected on X. By noon, local news vans were parked outside Soul Haven. By evening, clients were canceling bookings, their reviews turning vicious. Scammers. Liars. I watched from my truck parked 2 streets over. Mara emerged from the retreat, her hair disheveled, dodging reporters' questions. Declan appeared, his arm around her, but his grin was gone, replaced by a tight-lipped scowl. The cameras loved it, their golden couple crumbling in real time. Sarah called as I drove back to the cabin. "It's chaos," she said, almost giddy. "Their biggest investor pulled out. The state's looking into fraud charges." "Lucas, you did it." "Not yet," I said, my voice low. "They're wounded, not down." She paused. "What's next?" I didn't answer right away. The truth was I wasn't sure. Exposing them felt right, but it didn't fill the hole Mara had left. Revenge was a fire, but it didn't warm you. Still, I wasn't stopping. They'd made this a public game, and I had one more move. The idea came the next morning as I cleaned my lenses by the cabin's fire. Photography had always been my language. Storms, landscapes, raw truth caught in a frame. Why not use it now? I called Sarah. I want to do a gallery show. Not about storms, about predators. People like them, hiding in plain sight. She didn't hesitate. I love it. We'll call it Beneath the Surface. I've got a space in Boise, small but central. You've got 2 weeks. I spent those weeks working like a man possessed. I pulled old shots, coyotes blending in a sagebrush, sharks gliding under calm waves, and paired them with new ones. Candids Amara and Declan, their smiles radiant in public, but cold in private moments I'd caught through my lens. The final pieces were portraits, one of each, their eyes bright, their faces flawless. Above them, a caption, "Some predators don't hunt with claws." The night of the show, the gallery was packed, locals, photographers, even a few reporters sniffing out the buzz. I didn't speak, didn't need to. The images told the story. Beauty masking danger, trust betrayed. At the end, behind a black curtain, I hung the portraits. Gasps rippled through the crowd as people read the caption. No names, no accusations, just truth, sharp enough to cut. By morning, the show was viral. Expos called it haunting, a middle finger to fakes. The Statesman ran a piece linking it to Solhaven's collapse. Mara and Declan's names were everywhere, their lies laid bare. I watched from the cabin, the fire low, the rye untouched. It should have felt like victory, but it didn't. Not yet. Then the knock came. Late, past midnight, the kind of hour where only ghosts show up. I knew it was her before I opened the door. The air went still, the stars dimmed. Mara stood there, pale, her coat too big, her eyes hollow. "Lucas," she whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't know what he was doing. "Declan. He used me." I leaned against the door frame, silent, waiting. The storm wasn't over, and I needed to know what she'd say next. Mara stood on the cabin's porch, shivering in her oversized coat, her breath clouding in the frigid Sawtooth air. Her eyes, once sharp with defiance, were red-rimmed, desperate. "Lucas," she said again, her voice a cracked whisper. "Declan lied to me. He used me. I didn't know about the money, the scams, any of it." She took a step closer, her hands twisting together. "Please, you have to believe me." I stayed still, one hand on the doorframe, the fire's faint glow spilling from inside. The Olmi might have reached for her, softened by her tears. But that man was gone, buried under her betrayal, her public lies. "You didn't know?" I said, my voice flat. "But you brought him into our bed. You stood by him while you called me a monster. That was you, Mara, not Declan." She flinched, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I was lonely," she said, her voice breaking. "You were always gone, chasing storms, living for your camera. I felt like nothing. Declan, he saw me. He made me feel alive again. But I didn't know who he really was." I let the silence stretch, heavy and cold. "You made your choice," I said. "You didn't just cheat. You turned our life into a spectacle. You told the world I was the villain so you could play the victim. And now what? You're here because it fell apart." Her shoulders sagged, and she covered her face with her hands. "I lost everything," she whispered. "Solhaven's gone. The investors sued. My friends won't speak to me. Declan, he took what was left of the money and ran. I'm alone, Lucas. I came to say I'm sorry. I know it's not enough, but I loved you. Part of me still does." The words hit like a gust of wind, sharp, disorienting. Loved, still does. It was cruel, the way she could say it now, after burning everything down. I stepped back, my voice low. "You loved me, but you humiliated me. You loved me, but you built a business on lies with a man who wasn't me. Sorry doesn't rebuild a house you set on fire, Mara." She sobbed, her body shaking, but I didn't move. I'd spent weeks in this cabin, splitting wood to quiet the pain, staring into flames to burn out her memory. I had no comfort left to give. "I don't want forgiveness," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "I just wanted you to hear me. To know I didn't mean for it to end like this. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone I didn't recognize. A stranger wearing the face of the woman I'd married. The truth, I said, stepping closer, my eyes locked on hers, is you weren't just lonely. You wanted everything. My love, his thrill, a life where you could have it all. And when you couldn't, you chose to destroy me to get it. Her sobs grew louder, but I turned, stepping back into the cabin. Go, I said, my voice final. Don't come back. I closed the door, the latch clicking like a gunshot. She didn't knock again. The next morning, I drove to Boise, the dossier still on my mind. Mia Chin's blog post and the gallery show had done their work. Soul Haven was a husk, its clients gone, its accounts frozen pending a state investigation. Ex-posts buzzed with updates. Declan had been spotted in Portland, dodging fraud charges. Mara was silent, her social media dark. The world had turned on them, just as I planned. But the victory felt hollow, like a storm that passes without rain. Sarah met me at the gallery, her face grim. You saw the latest? She asked, sliding her phone across the table. A new article. Soul Haven co-founder Mara Hayes breaks silence, claims she was manipulated. Mara's statement painted Declan as the mastermind, herself as a naive victim. She didn't mention me, but the implication was clear. She was rewriting the story again. She's still lying, I said, pushing the phone back. She knew enough. Sarah nodded. Maybe, but the public split. Some believe her, some don't. Declan's the real target now. Cops are closing in. What do you want to do? I leaned back, staring at the gallery walls, still lined with my predator photos. Nothing, I said. The truth's out. Let's finish them. She raised an eyebrow. You sure? You could go public, tell your side. I shook my head. The photos spoke. That's enough. But it wasn't, not entirely. That night, I sat by the cabin's fire, the rye bottle unopened. Mara's visit had stirred something, a question I couldn't shake. Was she a victim, caught in Declan's web, or a willing player who'd only turned on him when the game collapsed? The answer mattered, not for her sake, but for mine. I needed to know how blind I'd been. I opened my laptop and dug deeper, chasing threads I'd ignored. Tara Voss had mentioned another ex-partner, a woman named Elise who'd worked with Declan years ago. I found her through a LinkedIn profile, now dormant, and sent a message. To my surprise, she replied within hours, agreeing to a call. Elise's voice was steady, guarded. Declan's a chameleon, she said. He reads people, finds their weaknesses, and exploits them. I was his business partner in Vegas, thought we were building something real. He drained our accounts, left me with nothing. Sound familiar? Too familiar, I said. What about Mara? Did you ever meet her? Elise paused. No, but I saw her name in some of Declan's old emails. He mentioned her a year ago, said she was perfect, lonely, ambitious, easy to mold. He planned to use her to front his next big scam. If she's claiming she didn't know, she's either lying or willfully blind. I exhaled, the pieces clicking. Thanks, Elise. This helps. Be careful, she said. Declan doesn't let go easy. If he's cornered, he'll lash out. I hung up, my mind racing. Mara wasn't innocent, but she wasn't the mastermind either. Declan had played her, just as he'd played Tara and Elise. But her choices, her betrayal, her lies were her own. The clarity didn't erase the pain, but it sharpened my resolve. The next day, I got a call from Mia Chin. Declan's been arrested, she said, her voice triumphant. Caught in Seattle, trying to board a flight. Fraud, embezzlement, the works. Your dossier helped. They traced his accounts through Tara's records. And Mara? I asked. Quiet for now, Mia said. But the state's investigating her for falsifying credentials. She won't skate free. I thanked her and hung up, staring out the cabin window at the pines bending in the wind. The storm I'd unleashed had done its work. Mara and Declan were falling, their lies exposed. But as the fire crackled, I felt the weight of what came next. Revenge had freed me, but it hadn't healed me. The cabin, the mountains, my cameras, they were my life now. Could I rebuild, not just survive? I didn't have the answer yet, but I knew one thing. The story wasn't over. Mara's visit, Declan's arrest, the lingering question of her guilt, they were threads still unraveling. And somewhere, in the quiet of the Sawtooths, I'd find the truth. The Sawtooth Mountains stood silent, their peaks cutting the sky as the first snow dusted the pines. I sat on the cabin's porch, my camera resting on the rail, the air sharp with winter's promise. Declan was in a Seattle jail, facing charges that would keep him locked away for years: fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. Mara had vanished from the public eye, her name tied to a state investigation for falsifying credentials. Soul Haven was a memory, its storefront boarded up, its promises exposed as lies. The storm I'd unleashed had done its work, but as I sipped coffee, watching the sunrise bleed gold across the valley, I wondered, was this victory? The truth had burned them, but it hadn't made me whole. Weeks passed, quiet ones. I rebuilt the cabin's back wall, planted a small herb garden, and developed photos in a makeshift darkroom. I traveled, Patagonia for its glacier winds, Iceland for its auroras, chasing beauty, not headlines. My work shifted. I stopped photographing predators and started capturing survivors. A lone elk crossing a wildfire's scars, a cliffside flower blooming through frost, a fisherman laughing under a bruised sky. The gallery show, Beneath the Surface, had left its mark, print sold out, and Sarah was planning a second run. But the ache lingered, a ghost in my chest. Mara's words from that night on the porch, "I loved you." Part of me still does, haunted me, not because I believe them, but because they forced me to face my own blindness. One morning, Sarah called. "You're not going to believe this," she said, her voice a mix of amusement and disbelief. Mara's in Missoula. Changed her name to Clara Evans, working at a bookstore. She's trying to start over. I leaned against the cabin wall, the phone cold against my ear. "She's running. Or hiding," Sarah said. "The state dropped the credential case. Lack of evidence. She's free legally, but socially, she's radioactive. No one in Boise will touch her." I nodded, though Sarah couldn't see. "Let her go. She's not my problem anymore." Sarah hesitated. "You sure?" I could dig, see if she's pulling the same crap under a new name. "No," I said, firmer than I felt. "I'm done chasing her." But I wasn't done with the past. Not entirely. That night, I pulled out an old photo album, one I'd avoided for months. Mara and me in better days. Her laughing at a campfire, us hiking the Tetons, her asleep in our old apartment, my camera catching the morning light on her face. I didn't feel love or hate, just a strange clarity. She'd broken us, but I'd let her, too caught up in storms to see her fading. The fault wasn't mine alone, but it wasn't hers alone either. That truth, sharp as it was, set something free. A year later, the past found me again. It was a crisp October evening, and my new gallery in Boise, a small space I'd bought with Beneath the Surface profits, hosted a private show. No press, no fanfare, just locals and survivors. The walls held my new work. A scarred mountain goat standing proud on a ridge, a river carving through ash, a woman with burn scars dancing at a festival. Each photo was a story of endurance, of life after ruin. The crowd was small but warm, hikers, students, a few old friends. I didn't notice her at first, too busy pouring wine and answering questions about aperture settings. Then I felt it, a shift in the air like the moment before lightning. I turned, and there she was, Mara, or Clara, or whoever she was now. Older, thinner, her once vibrant hair dulled and pulled back. No makeup, no pretense, just her standing by a photo of a lone pine twisted by wind, but still growing. She didn't approach, just studied the image, her hands clasped tight. I crossed the room, my heart steady. "You shouldn't be here," I said, low enough that no one else heard. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine. No tears, no defiance, just a quiet weight. "I didn't come to cause trouble," she said softly. "I saw the show announced online. I wanted to see you, your work." I didn't respond, waiting. She glanced back at the pine. "Used to photograph chaos. Storms, predators. Now it's this. Things that survive." Her voice caught, but she steadied it. "It's beautiful, Lucas. What do you want?" I asked, my tone even. She exhaled, her shoulders sagging. "Not forgiveness. Not a second chance. I came to say thank you." I raised an eyebrow, and she continued, her words careful. "You could have destroyed me completely, leaked more, pushed harder. You didn't. You exposed the truth, and it broke me, but it also woke me up. I was greedy, like you said. I wanted everything, and I hurt you to get it. I live with that every day. I studied her, searching for the lie, but found none. This wasn't the Mara who'd begged on my porch or cried victim on TV. This was someone else, stripped bare by consequences. Why tell me now? I asked. Because you deserve to know, she said simply. I'm not that person anymore. I don't expect you to care, but I needed to say it. We stood there, the gallery's hum fading to a distant murmur. I didn't forgive her. I couldn't, but I didn't hate her either. She was a chapter I'd closed, a scar that had healed crooked but strong. Good luck, Clara, I said finally, using her new name. Don't come back. She nodded, a faint smile flickering, then placed a folded envelope on a nearby table. A donation, I later found, for a local trauma recovery program. She walked out, her silhouette vanishing into the Boise night. I didn't follow. I poured another glass of wine, laughed with a guest about the elk photo, and let the evening unfold. The envelope's contents, $500, anonymous, went to the program the next day. I didn't need her money, her apology, or her ghost. Today, I live where the mountains meet the river. The cabin's my home, expanded with a new porch and a skylight for starlit nights. I mentor young photographers, teach them to see the world's raw edges. My work graces magazines, but I chase light for myself now. Sunsets over the Oahes, frost on sagebrush, the howl of a wolf echoing at dusk. I don't photograph pain anymore, only what grows through it. Sometimes I sit by the fire, coffee in hand, and wonder, did I win? Revenge didn't fix me, but it cleared the rubble. It gave me space to build again. Mara's gone, Declan's a fading headline, and I'm here alive, unburdened. The wolf's howl rises again, strong, unbroken, and I smile. Predators destroy, but survivors rebuild. And I'm still standing.